Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dubs Nation Voice. We remind you to subscribe and join channel membership and be one of our member family today. Today's story is about the Kawhi Leonard scandal with the Los Angeles Clippers, and what this entire mess could mean for the Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry, and the entire balance of power in the Western Conference. Now, why does this matter? Well, the Clippers have been a team living on the edge for years, aging stars, constant injuries, and sky-high expectations. And suddenly this bombshell report drops. Allegations that Kawhi Leonard, a two-time champion, may have been paid nearly $28 million for what some are calling a no-show job. The NBA is reportedly investigating, the Clippers' credibility is under fire, and rival teams are smelling opportunity. Among those rivals are the Golden State Warriors, yes, the dynasty that brought you 4 championships, led by the legendary Stephen Curry. And while their window may be closing, this scandal might just be the break they need. Over the next 2 hours, we'll unpack the scandal, the fallout, and whether this could open the door for Golden State to add a key piece like Derrick Jones Jr. to support Curry's final push for one more ring. Let's start with some context. Kawhi Leonard is one of the most unique players in modern NBA history. Nicknamed the Claw, he built his reputation as a defensive monster in San Antonio, then as a cold-blooded assassin who led the Toronto Raptors to their first NBA title in 2019. But since arriving in Los Angeles to form that so-called super team with Paul George, Kawhi's Clippers era has been complicated, to say the least. Injuries derailed multiple playoff runs. The team never made the NBA Finals despite heavy investment, blockbuster trades, and championship expectations. Still, Kawhi remained one of the most respected and feared two-way players in the game. That's why this scandal is so shocking. According to NBA personality Pablo Torre, the Clippers allegedly funneled Kawhi a staggering $28 million through what he described as a fake, no-show job. If this is true, it's a direct violation of the NBA's salary cap rules, and it could bring down severe punishments, not just on Kawhi, but on the Clippers organization as a whole. This is not the first time we've seen teams get creative with salary cap gymnastics. Remember the Minnesota Timberwolves' Joe Smith contract fiasco back in the late 1990s? The league came down hard. The Clippers, if found guilty, could lose draft picks, be fined heavily, and face even more restrictions. And for a team that is already aging and top-heavy with salary, that's devastating. So here's where the Warriors enter the conversation. Golden State has been searching for answers since their dynasty began to crack after the 2022 championship. Draymond Green is older. Klay Thompson has battled through injuries. Stephen Curry is still brilliant, but at 37 years old, the clock is ticking on how many MVP-level seasons he has left in him. The front office, led by Mike Dunleavy Jr., has been cautious, but the pressure is mounting. If there was ever a moment to strike, to take advantage of another team's crisis, this might be it. And the player in the middle of all these whispers? Derrick Jones Jr., a 6'5" forward who just wrapped up a strong season with the Clippers. He's athletic, he's versatile, and he has championship experience after helping Dallas reach the 2024 NBA Finals. His defensive energy and improved outside shot make him an ideal piece for Golden State's rotation. But the big question is, at what cost? Would the Warriors give up a young talent like Moses Moody to bring in Jones? Is that enough to shift the balance of power in the West? Over the next segments, we'll break down the possible scenarios. But before we move to the trade talk, let's take a deeper look at how this Clippers scandal might unravel, and why it could be the beginning of a dramatic reset in Los Angeles. Now let's zoom in on the Los Angeles Clippers themselves. Because before we can understand what this scandal means for Golden State, we have to understand what it means for LA. And honestly, the timing couldn't be worse for them. Think about it, the Clippers are entering the 2025-26 season with sky-high payroll, an aging roster, and not a lot of flexibility. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, these guys are household names, but they're not getting any younger. Injuries have been the story of their careers over the last 5 years. And now, instead of focusing on how to keep the core healthy, the entire organization is distracted by a scandal that could shake their foundation. Let's be real, Clippers fans have been through a lot. From the Donald Sterling controversy years ago, to the heartbreak of injuries, to watching Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan leave without a championship, and now this Kawhi story, it feels like the franchise is cursed with off-court chaos. This new scandal only fuels that narrative. Kawhi Leonard is 34. Paul George is 35. Russell Westbrook is 37. These are not players you build a future around anymore. These are veterans you try to squeeze the last ounce of production from. That's why the Clippers were desperate to stay relevant, to prove they could compete. But with this scandal hanging over them, you have to wonder if management is ready to hit the reset button. Because if the NBA decides to punish them, say, by stripping draft picks or limiting financial flexibility, then what's the point of keeping the band together? You can't rebuild with no picks and no trust from the league office. So naturally, the trade rumors are going to swirl. And when players like Derrick Jones Jr. become expendable, that's when rivals like the Warriors will pounce. And then there's the matter of reputation. The Clippers had worked hard over the last decade to rebuild their image from the Sterling days. Steve Ballmer came in, brought energy, money, and a vision. He built a new arena. He marketed the Clippers as a legitimate power in Los Angeles, no longer the Lakers' little brother. But a scandal like this? It's poison. It undermines all that hard work. Other teams will look at the Clippers and think they're desperate. They're cornered. They'll make a move out of fear. And that perception in the NBA is deadly, because once you're seen as desperate, rival GMs will circle like sharks. So what are the scenarios? Scenario 1, the Clippers double down. They say, look, Kawhi is still an elite talent when healthy, Paul George still has gas in the tank, and Russell Westbrook brings leadership. We'll weather the storm, we'll take the fines, and we'll keep pushing for a playoff spot. That's the prideful route, but it's risky. Because if injuries hit again, which history tells us they probably will, then you're left with nothing. Scenario 2, the Clippers reset. They look around and say, okay, this isn't working. Let's move veterans while they still have value. Let's get picks, let's get young players, and let's prepare for the future. This is where Derrick Jones Jr. comes into the conversation, because while he's younger than Kawhi or George, he's still a veteran piece who could be shipped off for the right price. For the Warriors, that could be a dream opportunity. And finally, let's talk about Kawhi himself. He's a fascinating figure. Quiet, private, almost robotic in his approach to basketball. The guy doesn't even have social media. But the irony is, that same private nature makes scandals like this even bigger. Because Kawhi never lets the world in, every bit of drama around him feels 10 times larger. And if the allegations are true, if he really took money for a no-show job, then it will leave a permanent stain on his legacy. We'll no longer just talk about Kawhi, the 2-time Finals MVP. We'll talk about Kawhi, the player at the center of one of the NBA's ugliest salary scandals. For the Clippers, that's a nightmare. For their rivals, it's a potential blessing. So here's where we stand. The Clippers are vulnerable, their reputation is damaged, and their roster is fragile. And across the state, in San Francisco, the Golden State Warriors are watching all of this unfold with keen interest. Because for them, this might be the window of opportunity they've been waiting for. The dynasty isn't over yet, but the clock is ticking, and if they're serious about giving Steph Curry one last shot at glory, they may have to act fast. Up next, we'll dive into the Warriors' side of the story. The pressure on their front office, the state of their roster, and why this Clippers scandal could be the push that forces Golden State to finally make a move. Jonathan Kuminga's story with the Golden State Warriors has now reached a boiling point. From a promising draft pick to a key young piece on a dynasty roster, Kuminga has always been caught between two realities: the future star he believes he can be, and the limited role he has been asked to play. Now, as negotiations drag on, the question isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about power, opportunity, and identity. Will Kuminga finally take control of his destiny, or will the Warriors' front office force him into a corner? This is not just a contract saga, it's a battle for respect, relevance, and the future of a franchise that has defined the NBA for the last decade. Born in Goma, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Jonathan Kuminga's journey to the NBA is nothing short of extraordinary. From a young age, his size and athleticism drew attention. But unlike many of his peers, Kuminga had to leave home and travel across continents in pursuit of his basketball dream. He arrived in the United States as a teenager, raw but filled with potential, enrolling at the Patrick School in New Jersey, a program known for producing NBA talent. Scouts were immediately intrigued. His physical gifts, strength, leaping ability, quickness, were undeniable. Yet there were questions. Could he develop the skills? Could he adapt to the structure of high-level American basketball? Instead of going to college, Kuminga made a bold move, joining the NBA G League Ignite program. This decision, at the time, was risky. He bet on himself, believing that training against professionals would prepare him faster than NCAA competition. And for the most part, it worked. Scouts saw flashes of brilliance, step-back jumpers, highlight dunks, defensive versatility. By the time of the 2021 NBA draft, he was seen as one of the highest upside prospects available. The Warriors, with the 7th overall pick, saw the opportunity. They were a team stuck in transition. Steph Curry was still at the height of his powers, but Klay Thompson was recovering from back-to-back major injuries, and the roster desperately needed youth. Drafting Kuminga was not just about the present, it was about building a bridge into the future. Early years in Golden State. Kuminga's rookie season was full of ups and downs. On some nights, he barely played. On others, he exploded off the bench, showing flashes that reminded fans of a young Kawhi Leonard or Jaylen Brown. His ability to guard multiple positions, run the floor, and finish above the rim made him a fan favorite almost immediately. By his second year, however, frustration started to grow. While Kuminga improved statistically, averaging more points and playing with greater confidence, his role under Steve Kerr remained inconsistent. Kerr, known for relying on veterans, often turned to players like Andrew Wiggins, Kevin Looney, and Draymond Green in crucial moments, leaving Kuminga on the sidelines. This was especially clear in the playoffs, where his minutes often disappeared despite regular season growth. To many observers, Kuminga represented the classic dilemma for the Warriors. Should they commit fully to their veteran core, or should they invest in their young stars like Kuminga, James Wiseman, and Moses Moody? The contract saga unfolds. Fast forward to the summer of 2025. Kuminga is now a restricted free agent, and the standoff has begun. The Warriors have put a 2-year, $45 million offer on the table. On paper, it looks generous. But the fine print matters. The second year comes with a team option. To Kuminga and his agent, Aaron Turner, this is unacceptable. They want a player option, which gives Kuminga control. Control is everything here. If the team holds the option, Kuminga risks being stuck in the same frustrating role for another year, unable to explore opportunities elsewhere. If he has the player option, he can reassess his future, look for better fits, and potentially command a bigger contract. The qualifying offer complicates everything. Worth $7.9 million for one season, it allows Kuminga to hit unrestricted free agency the following summer. But it's a dangerous gamble. If he gets injured, or if his role continues to shrink, his market value could plummet. Still, the Warriors fear this option more than Kuminga does. If he signs it, they lose trade flexibility and risk watching him leave for nothing in 2026. This tug-of-war over options and leverage is not just financial. It reflects the deeper mistrust between the two sides. Kuminga feels undervalued. The Warriors fear overcommitting to a player they haven't fully trusted. The Jimmy Butler factor. This offseason, the Warriors made another bold move, trading for Jimmy Butler. On paper, Butler gives them another battle-tested veteran to chase one more championship with Curry and Draymond. But for Kuminga, Butler's arrival might be the final straw. Where does he fit now? If Butler plays big minutes at forward, Kuminga's path to a starting role becomes even narrower. fans and analysts see the writing on the wall. Some argue that the Warriors don't really see Kuminga as part of their long-term future, and that he's more valuable as a trade asset. Others believe Golden State risks repeating the mistakes of the past, choosing short-term security over developing the next generation. Trade rumors and interest around the league. Reports indicate that teams like the Sacramento Kings and Phoenix Suns have already shown serious interest in Kuminga. Both franchises envision him as their power forward of the future, offering him not just money but a clear role. Unlike Golden State, they would hand him the keys to grow without fear of being benched behind veterans. The problem? Any deal requires the Warriors' approval. A sign-and-trade could work, but Golden State has been reluctant. After all, they know how talented Kuminga is, and losing him for the wrong package could haunt them. Yet, the clock is ticking, and every day without resolution increases the tension. Lessons from the past. The specter of Nerlens Noel looms over this saga. In 2017, Noel turned down a $70 million offer from Dallas, betting on himself with a $4.1 million qualifying offer. That gamble backfired spectacularly after injuries and inconsistent play, and Noel never regained the same earning power. Kuminga's camp knows the risks, but they argue his situation is different. He's younger, healthier, and more productive than Noel was at that stage. He's also in a league that increasingly values athletic forwards who can guard multiple positions. The financial gap he risks is smaller, and he's confident he can earn far more long-term. The bigger picture. This saga isn't just about one player. It's a snapshot of the modern NBA. More than ever, young players are asserting control over their futures. Team options, once standard, are now points of contention. The power dynamic has shifted. For the Warriors, this is also about identity. They built a dynasty on loyalty and continuity, but can they afford to alienate their best young talent? If they cling too tightly to the past, they risk compromising the future. If they bet too heavily on improving youth, they risk wasting the twilight years of Curry's career. So where does this leave Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors? With training camp just weeks away, the standoff feels unsustainable. Either the Warriors cave and give him a player option, or Kuminga takes the qualifying offer and sets up a season of constant drama. The nightmare for Golden State would be losing him for nothing while watching him blossom elsewhere. For Kuminga, the decision is about belief. Does he trust himself enough to gamble on the qualifying offer? Or does he compromise now for stability? What's certain is this. The resolution of Kuminga's contract saga will not only define his career but could reshape the entire Warriors dynasty. The stakes are enormous, and the next move could change everything. The 2025 to 2026 NBA season is here, and few teams draw as much attention as the Golden State Warriors. Once the unquestioned kings of basketball, the Warriors now stand at a crossroads. With Steph Curry still dazzling crowds at age 37, Jimmy Butler entering the twilight of his career, and Draymond Green battling both age and injuries, the story of Golden State this year is one of both hope and looming uncertainty. ESPN's biggest voices have all weighed in on the Warriors, and their reactions capture the complicated picture of a dynasty fighting to extend its life in a league that is faster, younger, and hungrier than ever. Stephen A. Smith, never one to hold back his emotions, opened his analysis with fire. He reminded fans that while Curry remains the greatest shooter in history, the Warriors have leaned on him far too heavily. He shouted that Golden State can no longer pretend that Steph alone can deliver championships, because the roster around him is older, thinner, and far less intimidating than it once was. His voice rose as he pointed out the contradiction. A team once known for its youth, depth, and fluid system is now banking on Jimmy Butler, a tough competitor but a player who has struggled with injuries and who is closer to 40 than 30. For Stephen A., the Kuminga contract drama is a flashing red light. This young man wants respect, and he deserves it, Smith raged. But the Warriors treat him like trade bait instead of a cornerstone. That is going to explode in their faces if they're not careful. Kendrick Perkins followed in his slower, heavier tone, but his words were just as sharp. Perkins emphasized that the fear factor is gone. In 2017, teams would step into Oracle Arena already beaten in spirit. In 2025, teams walk into Chase Center believing they can win. Perkins repeated that Golden State can't ignore youth forever. "If you want this thing to last," he said, "you don't just keep throwing money at older guys. You lock up Kuminga, you let him grow, you let him make mistakes. You can't expect Steph and Jimmy to play 65 games at elite level while Draymond's holding his body together with duct tape." His take was blunt: either Golden State embraces its young core, or the dynasty is finished. Brian Windhorst took a different route, calmly breaking the situation down like a chessboard. He explained that this season is not just about basketball, it's about business. The Warriors have carried one of the highest payrolls in sports history, paying luxury taxes that dwarf most teams' budgets. Ownership has supported it so far because banners were going up, but now, with championships no longer guaranteed, that spending has come into question. Windhorst warned that the addition of Jimmy Butler is a sign the front office chose the present over the future, betting on Curry's final years instead of investing in Kuminga and the other young players. He noted that such decisions create tension: young talent feels expendable, and veterans feel pressure to deliver quickly. Windhorst framed the situation as a timeline collision, one that could define the franchise for the next decade. Richard Jefferson, in his usual playful but sharp style, compared the Warriors to the 2015 Spurs. Steph Curry is Tim Duncan, still brilliant but older. Jimmy Butler is Manu Ginobili in his last years, full of fire but limited by time. Draymond Green is Tony Parker, still smart but physically declining. And Jonathan Kuminga, Jefferson argued, was supposed to be their Kawhi Leonard, the bridge to the next era. But the difference, Jefferson said, is that the Spurs fully trusted Kawhi. The Warriors, by contrast, still haven't committed to Kuminga, leaving their future hanging in the balance. Jefferson's point was simple: without a clear bridge from Steph's era to what comes next, Golden State risks collapsing the moment Curry steps away. The debate between these analysts turned into a spirited back-and-forth about strengths and weaknesses. Everyone agreed that Curry is still elite, still capable of changing a game with one shot, still the most feared shooter alive. Jimmy Butler, when healthy, gives them toughness and a competitive edge. Steve Kerr's system of ball movement and spacing is still among the league's smartest. But the weaknesses were just as glaring: age, health, and inconsistency on defense. Younger teams like Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and even Houston no longer look at Golden State with fear. Instead, they see opportunity. As the conversation unfolded, predictions began to surface. Stephen A. insisted that while the Warriors would make the playoffs, they were not the favorites in the West. Perkins went further, warning that without solving the Kuminga situation, Golden State could be staring at a first-round exit. Windhorst added a note of intrigue, suggesting that the trade deadline would be critical. If Kuminga remained unhappy, the Warriors might flip him for another veteran to maximize Curry's window. Jefferson, always the realist, said the team's fate depends entirely on Curry's health. If he misses significant time, their season is over. If he stays healthy, they remain dangerous but no longer dominant. The longer the discussion went on, the clearer the themes became. The Warriors are not just another basketball team, they are a dynasty grappling with mortality. Their biggest stars are aging, their payroll is bloated, and their young players feel undervalued. Yet at the same time, their culture, their system, and above all, their superstar Steph Curry, keep them relevant in a league that has already moved on to younger faces. The pundits circled back to the central tension. Golden State has to decide whether to fight for one last championship with its aging core, or to finally embrace a transition that has been delayed for years. In closing, the ESPN panel agreed on one thing: the Warriors will be one of the most fascinating stories of the 2025-26 NBA season. They may rise again, powered by Curry's brilliance and Butler's toughness, or they may fall, undone by age, contracts, and the unforgiving pace of time. Either way, the cameras will be fixed on them, because even in decline, the Golden State Warriors remain a team that commands attention. The cameras flashed as Steph Curry stepped to the podium, smiling in that familiar way that has calmed Warriors fans for more than a decade. But behind the grin, everyone could sense the weight of the moment. At 37 years old, Curry knows this season could be his last real shot at adding another championship banner to Chase Center. When reporters asked how he felt going into the 2025 to 2026 campaign, Steph's voice carried both confidence and urgency. He spoke about discipline, about staying in the best shape possible, about embracing the challenge of proving that Golden State still belongs in the title conversation. "I hear people saying we're done, that we're too old, that the game has passed us by," he said, his tone rising slightly. "That's fine. I've heard it before. Every time people count us out, we find a way to remind them who we are." Coach Steve Kerr, sitting just a few feet away, nodded slowly as Curry spoke. Kerr has been the architect of this dynasty, blending egos, guiding stars, and reshaping basketball itself with his system of ball movement, spacing, and unselfishness. But even he admits this season is different. "We know the margin for error is smaller now," Kerr told reporters. "When you've been to the mountaintop as many times as we have, you also know how hard it is to get back there. But I believe in this group. Steph is still playing at an MVP level. We've got Jimmy Butler bringing his toughness, Draymond setting the tone defensively, and young guys who are hungry to prove themselves. The ingredients are there, we just have to cook the right way." What struck observers most was not just the words, but the determination in their delivery. Curry's preparation this off-season had been relentless. Teammates described his workouts as obsessive, noting that he had trimmed his body to maintain quickness and sharpened his stamina for another 80-game grind. He spent hours perfecting footwork, adjusting his release for tighter windows, and studying defensive schemes of younger, more athletic guards who now dominate the league. "Every year I try to find something new to sharpen," Curry explained. "The league gets better. If I stay the same, I fall behind. So I've worked on playing off the ball even more, finding ways to move without it, because that's what's going to keep me dangerous as I get older." Kerr's preparation mirrored that of his star player. Known as a coach who thrives on innovation, he spent the summer revisiting film from not just Golden State, but also from teams like Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and Boston, the new powers of the NBA. "We've got to adjust to the league as it is now, not the league we dominated in 2017, Kerr said candidly. "That means faster pace, more versatile defense, and better use of our bench." His staff designed schemes to balance Butler's grit with Curry's finesse, hoping to craft lineups that could withstand the physicality of younger rosters while still unleashing the Warriors' signature shooting. Still, both Curry and Kerr acknowledged the looming questions. Could Draymond Green stay healthy and avoid the suspensions that had haunted him in recent years? Could Jimmy Butler play enough games to be a real difference-maker in May and June? Would Jonathan Kuminga resolve his contract standoff, or would it become a distraction that tore at the locker room? "We know what people are saying," Curry admitted. "They doubt us. They say our time is up. But that's the fuel. I don't want to end my career wondering if we had one more run in us. I want to find out right now." Kerr, ever the realist but also the optimist, put it another way. "This team has heart. That's what people forget. Championships don't just belong to the youngest or the fastest. They belong to the teams that refuse to break. And we've been